Hello, everyone. In this video, we will discuss how to configure our system to work with two GitHub accounts. What do I mean? We will have an account for storing personal repositories, that is, perhaps some of our creative work or experiments. It will be named with some nickname, for example, VYSMV. We will also have an official work account with an official name, as we are called in real life, and it will have corporate email, etc. We will need to manage these two accounts with a single system. That is, we will have to make requests and push them to either one account or the other. We will also have a demo work account belonging to our employer for demonstration purposes. It will have an organization to which we will be invited. And how will this whole process work? The employer creates an organization within the organization repository in their account. There, they create a team and send invitations to the developers they want to see on their project's development team. That is, after they send an invitation to the email address associated with our employee's account, we will receive an invitation that we will need to accept. After that, we will have access to the repository associated with that organization. Well, now we'll see all this in practice. Let's clear the screen and move to the bottom of our image. Here we have two configurations that are necessary to implement the idea described earlier. The first config will configure the SSH connection. It will determine that if the connection is initialized and personal GitHub is used as the host, then this private key must be used. If the connection is made via SSH and this alias work GitHub is used as the host, then this private key must be used to authenticate the connection. That is, the first configuration file is responsible for which keys will be used, which private keys will be used to verify the SSH connection depending on which alias we use. The second configuration will determine which user and which email should be set for the current user depending on which directory we are working in. By default, I have specified that the user VYSMV will be used on my machine and this email will be used. But if I execute commands, any git commands in the work directory, which is located in the home directory and in any directory nested after work, then config will connect an additional part and will override the user on whose behalf the commits will be executed and will override the mail. There are also these three parameters, signing key, GPG, and GPG sign, which is set to true. GPG equal to SSH, and a specific private key specified in signing key. This is necessary to ensure that our commits are verified. Furthermore, in the repository where we will be pushing, our commits will be marked with a specific verified tag. I will try to remember to demonstrate this. This is not essential to our overall task, but it would not hurt. Let's clear the screen. That is, strictly speaking, we have a structure of accounts that we will be operating on. And there are two configuration files that will allow us to configure our system. Now let's take a look at all this, at the account system we will be working with. The first one is my personal real account. It contains some of my repositories that I work with in my spare time. It is named with a nickname, an unofficial name. I also have an example of my official account for demonstration purposes. It shows the official name and corporate email address in the settings. We also have our employer's GitHub account. This is the GitHub account of our employer, who has an organization. We can go into it. This organization has a work repo repository. This organization also has a devs team. I was invited to join this team. Well, that is my official account. An official name invite was sent here. I accepted it and joined this team. This team has access rights to this organization's repository. I think that's clear. If you have any questions, or if I haven't explained something clearly, please write in the comments and I'll try to explain it again. So, we figured out the picture and figured out the set of GitHub accounts. Now let's move on to practice. I will demonstrate the setup on a clean Debian 13. Only Git and the current user are installed there. Added to the group sudo. I did not make any other changes to the system. We will open a cheat sheet so as not to waste time entering commands and try to build this system. The first command we will execute is to create a code directory, and in it, two subdirectories, personal and work. Let's see. Yes, we have a code directory and two subdirectories in it. Next step, we need to generate two pairs of SSH keys. If we go back to our picture, we can see that we need to manage both our personal account and our work account. This means that to connect to each of them, we need a pair of keys for SSH connection, a private key and a public key. This is exactly why we are now generating two pairs of keys. First, copy the first command. The command includes the encryption type and a comment that will be added to the public key. Strictly speaking, it has no technical effect, but it allows you to visually distinguish one key from another. Next, the file where the key will be stored is specified. We perform the generation. We are asked for a password. You don't need to enter it if you are using your home computer and no outsiders have access to your computer. Feel free to skip this phrase, and everything will be fine. But if your computer is accessible to outsiders, it is better to enter the phrase so that no one can perform a commit or any other action on your behalf while you are distracted. I am using this phrase here, but you don't have to. Just to be on the safe side, once again, no password is required for the SSH connection we have here. We need keys, private and public, but in order to access these keys on our computer, they can be password protected. That is, so that an outsider cannot execute a command from our turned-on computer. Well, I think this figurative description should be enough to understand. Let's go back to the terminal. I enter the phrase password. I'm just used to using it, so I continue out of habit. Okay, let's check. We have two generated files. We execute the second command and generate a couple more. Everything is the same here. The only difference is the name of the resulting file and the comment. We leave the encryption type the same. I also generate a passphrase. Okay, let's see. We have 4 keys. Great. We can move on. The next step is to add the first of the configurations that we described and analyzed in the introductory image. We take its name and create a config. Once again, please note that aliases are set as the first value here. They will determine that if you initiate an SSH connection and use a particular alias as the host, and you have to work through either this block or that block. Accordingly, if, for example, you are trying to clone a repository and specify personal GitHub as the host instead of the standard github.com, then the private key specified here will be used for identification. And the connection will be made from the Git user. Well, it's the same in both cases. The actual host to connect to is also specified. Identity's only directive. You can also leave it as yes. It is only necessary to ensure that the check is performed on the single key specified here without searching through other keys. Save the file. Exit. Continue. Next step. We need to add public keys to our accounts, both personal and work, which we just generated. Let's do it. Let's start with our personal account. We need to click on the profile logo here and select Settings. Here, SSH and GPG keys. Click New SSH. Write down the title, should catch up from previous experiments, Test Personal GitHub. Leave the type as default and return to the terminal. Clear the screen and display the contents again. First, we need to copy the name of the file with the private key. Let's print out its contents. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that, just in case, you can only publish, print, or share it with anyone using the key located in the file with the pub extension, that is, public. Keys that are private without this extension must not be disclosed anywhere, under any circumstances, otherwise it will be a security breach. So, copy the key, return to your account, paste it, and save. Confirmation is required. Okay, we have added the key. That's enough, although we can add the second one right away. In order for the commits we make to be displayed here in the GitHub graphical interface with the verified badge, we need to add another public key specifically for this purpose. So, it will be called test verify personal GitHub. Here, we change the type to signing key and paste it again. Add the key. After that, we need to go back to the terminal and print the public key for our work account. Copy. Copy the key and go to our work account. Open its profile as well. Here are the SSH and GPG key settings. Do the same thing. So, I still have keys from previous tests here. I'll delete them now so that everything is clean. Let's create a new key. Here, we change the test from personal to test work GitHub. We leave the type the same. Insert the key. By the way, you see, it's convenient. Insert the key, and you can immediately see that it's not the old one that got stuck there, copied, and you can see which key it is from the comment. That's why it's better to add comments than not. And add the key again. Here, we also change personal to work. Change the type, insert the key, add it. So, we have added two keys, and we continue with the cheat sheet. The next step, step number 5, is to create a configuration file for Git. Remember that we will have two configuration files. We have already created the first one for the SSH connection, and the second one will determine on behalf of which user the commits are made, that is, what name to add for the user and what email address. Let's insert the content. It is also in the cheat sheet, so let's take it and insert it. This section will be responsible for verifying commits, and they will be marked with the verified tag. This is simply user data that will be substituted depending on which directory we are working in. By default, the user vysmv will be set for all directories. But if we go to the directory, home, code, work, or any other directory, another configuration file will be connected, which will override the rules described above. Save, exit, and create another config. Paste the content. Here we override the user, email, and private key that must be used to verify commits. Save the file and exit. So, what's the next step? Step 6. We need to test it. First, we copy the link needed to clone the repository. We will clone the repository where this cheat sheet for this video is located. That is, for the test, we need to check that everything works. Let's go to the home directory code and then to personal. Let's clear the screen. Our directory is empty, and here we will execute git clone. This is one of those places where our alias comes into play. By default, it is github.com. That is, if we go to GitHub and navigate to the repository and open it there. Then by default, when copying this line, the host address will be set to the standard github.com, but we need to change it to personal GitHub so that certain private keys are used to establish an SSH connection. So, we perform cloning. We start cloning the repository. Next, I am asked to check the fingerprint. This is an additional layer of security. But since I am now sure that this is my connection and my key, I have no doubts or suspicions, so I just agree. I am asked for a password, after which the cloning takes place. Let's look at the directories. We now have our repository. We can go there, view the contents, and open, for example, the README file. And here, let's say we delete this comment symbol, save the file, exit. Now, run git status here. We see that we have one modified file, added to the index. Run commit. Enter the password and run push. We are asked to enter the password again. After that, we open the repository on GitHub and update it. Yes, of course, we won't see here that this line was there or has disappeared, because the comment is not visible. But if we look at the output as a line, we will see that there is no comment here, no comment symbol. That means the changes have been applied, everything is fine. Now we need to run some tests. This is step 6. Testing, downloading the working repository. Let's go to the appropriate directory, so let's go up and go to work. It's empty here too. We run git clone. Here, we also specify work GitHub as an alias and then run it. It also asks for a password. Let's clear the screen. We see that a directory has appeared. Let's go into it. Let's look at the contents. There are some files here. Let's open the index. And here, well, let's remove the comment symbol, save the file, and run git status. We see that there are changes. Git add, git commit. Enter the password and push. After that, we will go to our work account and even, perhaps, log into the account as if we were the employer to see how the commit went from the employer's perspective. We will go to the organization, open the repository, and see that the commit was made under our official name. Let's go there. And here, by the way, is the verified badge I mentioned. It doesn't stand out, but I think you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, great, everything is working. That means we've made the necessary settings, and everything is fine. Step 7 is optional. It's more of a cheat sheet in case something goes wrong, namely if you already had repositories that were working before you changed the configuration file for the SSH connection and added rules with aliases. In this case, you need to go to one of these repositories, execute the command, view the list of remote addresses, and see if github.com is specified there as a host, which is the default setting. If so, you will naturally need to change it by executing the following command. But, of course, if you use other aliases, change them and specify the ones you have chosen. And after you have registered your aliases, execute the commands to change the remote repositories and their addresses. After that, run the test to make sure everything is fine. Well, I think that's all I needed to cover in this video. To summarize, we will now have two GitHub accounts that we can use to work with our system. We have two configuration files that, allow us to configure this entire process. And this part was necessary, only for clarity. We have no influence on it whatsoever. That is, this is the GitHub account of the business owner and his organization. This is set up by the employer. He just sends us an invitation, which we must accept in order to gain access to the account within his organization. That's all. If you liked the video, if you found it useful, subscribe and like it. Also, go to GitHub, the cheat sheet will be pinned there. Watch, copy, and if you liked it, be sure to give it a star. That's all. Bye.